Alright, hey guys, so today we are going to be making a 3D character controlled by a mobile joystick. Okay, perfect. So first off, I have got a little list here it's just a simple roadmap of the things we are going to follow, of the steps we are going to follow, sorry. Okay, perfect. So first up, we are going to open Unity Hub. Here we are going to be creating a new project, a new URP project. Okay, let's call it, for instance, Mobile Joystick character, maybe. Okay, let's create it. All right, so let's wait for Unity to load. All right, perfect. We now have a blank URP project. So we can go there in the roadmap and tick that. Perfect. So now we are going to set up the camera, the post-process, the lighting, the fog, and the folders, and so on. So whenever I start a new URP project, I like to remove the example assets, the post-processing. I like to set up the directional light to pure white, put the strength of the shadows to 0.5, something like that. But we are going to have a better view of that later on when we are going to set up the character. Then I like to select my main camera and reset it and set the Z to -10. -10, not 101. All right, let's untick the post-processing and remove the base script that was attached to it. Then I like to go to the lighting window. So if you can't see this lighting window, select Window, Rendering, and Lighting, and then we are going to be able to see it. In the Environment tab, just untick the fog because we won't need it for now. All right. Then regarding the folders, we can select the example assets, the scripts, the tutorial info, and the README, and delete them. All right, perfect. So now we are going to quickly create a new folder called Mobile Joystick Character. All right, perfect. So let's select everything else and drop them into this folder. All right, cool. Now we have the base setup of the project. Next thing to do is to click on File, Build Settings, and set the project, the target platform to Android. Okay, let's switch. Okay, nice. Once that's done, we are going to create, let's see what I've written in the roadmap. Set up the camera, that's done. So now we are going to be importing the character. So you can get it from the asset store, Sketchfab, or make your very own. So here I've got a simple character from Sketchfab. You can also check this package from Bizulka or this one from Mighty Handful. So I already have one, so I'm going to be using one of them. Let me import that quickly. So first off, I'm going to create a new folder and call it Models, and maybe have another one called Animations too. I'm going to prepare it right now. Animations. Okay, so let's open the models folder. Let me import that quickly, and I'm going to get back to you. All right, guys, I'm back. So I've imported my models that we are going to use. So I just used one of the models I showed you just before, so one of these, and I also used Mixamo to add some animations to the character. Mixamo is a free website where you can add animations. I basically just imported an idle animation and a fast run animation, so that's it. Then I selected the fast run and clicked Ctrl-D to duplicate it, because if you don't duplicate it, you won't be able to use it properly once doing the animator, once making a new animator here. All right, so let's drag and drop the idle one here. All right, perfect. Let's focus it in our scene by pressing F. Let's set the view to orthographic. I prefer it because you can rotate around any object this way. And then what else? We can unpack this one. We can unpack this guy. All right, perfect. And we are going to rename this as the player animator. All right. Then we are going to give it an animator component. Okay, perfect. So double click on the animator if you can't see the animator window right here. So let me make this bigger. Okay. So let's select the player animator, click on animator, and we don't see anything. That's really weird. So I'm going to close it and open it again. Here we go. Now it's working properly. So basically okay, let me show you. I'm going to delete these and I'm going to import them back. So you select the idle animation, drag it and drop it here in the animator window. Then you can do the same thing for the fast run animation, drag it and drop it here. All right, I'm just going to rename it to run. That's simpler. All right. So now if we hit play, let me make this one bigger. If we hit play, we should see the player animating with the idle animation. So it's slightly moving, if you can see it. If we set this one to the default layer state, we can see that the player is now running. Perfect. All right, let's set this one back to idle. Okay. Then what should we do? Okay. We've imported the character. So we've dropped the character in Mixamo because I already showed you that. We set up the player animator. We dropped the character in the scene, but we need now to change the material just to make it prettier. Let's open the materials folder, create a new material and call it player. All right. So I'm going to drag this material and drop it onto the player here in the scene. I'm going to change the smoothness to 0, maybe make it blue like most hyper casual characters are, and give it a little bit of emission here, of blue emission, just for it not to be that black. You see here the shadows are less strong. Okay, so I think now it's kind of perfect. Awesome. Right, then we are going to add a ground, rotate the light and add some water. So it's just to improve the visuals a little bit. But first off, let me just create an empty parent for the player, because I like to have the animator in a separate game object. So I'm going to call this one player. All right. So let's add a new cube. So 3D object cube, and this will be our ground. So let's reset the transform by right-clicking and selecting reset. We're going to set the Y component of the position to -0.5 and maybe make this one bigger. So maybe 10 on the X and Z axis. All right, perfect. Now I think I'm going to add the water. So just make this cube a little bit, a little bit taller. Not like this, like this. Okay, perfect. Now it's taller. And let's add some water. So to add some water, I'm just going to create a simple plane here and call it water. All right. Let's reset the transform. Let's press W to have the position transform tool. Sorry. We're going to bring it down a little bit and make it bigger. So now I just pressed R to get the scale tool. All right, let's make it a little bit bigger. And we are going to create 2 new materials. So one material for the ground and one material for the water. Okay, let's drag this water material onto the water and drag the ground material onto the ground. So I think you can guess the color of the water. Blue. Yes. Nice. And the ground will be something maybe yellowish. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. All right. Perfect. Let's remove the smoothness here. And yeah, for the water, I did it already. You can remove the mesh collider from the water, by the way, because we won't need it for now. All right. Next thing to do here, I think we are going to add Let me check first here. All right. I did not add the walls here because we won't want our player to fall in the water. So we are gonna add some walls here. All right. So let me create a new game object and call it walls. I'm gonna reset this, reset the transform of the game object, and I'm gonna add a new cube. So this will be a simple wall. All right. So I'm gonna scale it on the z-axis and on the y-axis. Okay, I'm just gonna move it on the border of the ground. Perfect. I'm gonna just remove the mesh renderer because we don't want our wall to be visible. You can either remove the component or just disable it. So let's just disable it in case we want to use it later. Okay. So I'm gonna add 3 more walls. So let's just, let's show it just so that we know which walls we've added. So let's set another one on the right side and maybe 2 other ones here on the z-axis and another one at the back. Okay, perfect. Now the player is enclosed in a box. All right, so now we can hide our 4 walls. Cool. I think the next best thing to do here is to set up our camera because we can't see what's going on here. So to do that, I'm going to use Cinemachine. It's a cool package from Unity that makes using the camera very simple. So I'm going to open the package manager as I did now. In the packages, select Unity registry and type here Cine. And Cinemachine shows up. So let me just install it. All right, once that's done, we can close the package manager window. We can click on Cinemachine here. There is a new tab here called Cinemachine and create a virtual camera. All right, perfect. Did you notice the change here? Because now the Cinemachine camera took up on the camera. It's now controlling the camera, you see? If you change like here the rotation or the position of the Cinemachine object, game object, it changes the camera position and rotation. So what I like to do here is to put, let me create a new game object and call it maybe camera stuff. All right. So I'm going to select the camera and the Cinemachine game object and drop them both under this new game object. And let's drag it here. We can also add the directional light here. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to select the Cinemachine game object, sorry. And under the follow variable, I'm going to add the player. Same thing for the look at. So now the camera is following the player and looking at the player. So now you can use these 2 components here to set up the camera as you wish. You see? It's very practical here because it's always looking at the player. So now I'm going to just set up the camera as I like it to be. Maybe something like that should be cool. Okay, maybe let's make the water a little bit bigger. So 50 by 50. All right. Okay, cool. Yep, I think that's good now. Yeah, should be good. All right, let's create maybe 2 new game objects. So one for the gameplay. So I'm going to take all of these and drop them here. I can rename this cube to ground because it's the ground the player is sitting on. And I'm going to create a new game object called UI because we are going to be adding the joystick to control the player. Okay, let's check here. Add a mobile joystick. Perfect. That's where we are now. So to add the mobile joystick, I'm just going to import a prefab from one of our previous videos, which is Mobile Joystick. I think I'm going to add an annotation here or something just for you to get it, or maybe in the description box. All right, so let's grab it. I'm going to grab it and then come back to you. All right, perfect. So I just imported the mobile joystick from the previous video. So here it is, mobile joystick canvas. So I'm going to drag and drop it here under the UI game object. All right, so if I hit play, you can see that I can control the joystick here. And I can't, of course, because I forgot the event systems. So we are just going to right click under the UI, on the UI here, select UI event system and press enter. All right, let's hit play now. Perfect, now I can control the joystick. So I just need to link the joystick to the player to be able to control the player. But first I'm just gonna rotate the light a little bit because I don't like it the way it is now. Maybe like so. Perfect. And this one is too light, we can't see the player very well, so I'm gonna make it a little bit darker. All right, I think that's good. Yeah. Here, just a little side note. You can see that the shadows, you can see that the shadows are not pretty neat. They are not clear enough. So what you can do is under the project settings tab, here select quality and select medium. So for mobile, it's better to use medium or low, but I'm always using medium because it's there are some settings that you can control under the URP project, like this here. You can select the max distance to which you want to render the shadow. So if you set 0, no shadows are going to be rendered. But as you increase it, you can see that more and more shadows are visible. So maybe something like 30 here is a good choice. All right, let's close this parenthesis. Now we're going to try and link the mobile joystick to the player to be able to control it. Add the mobile joystick, add character controller to the player. So before doing that, we're going to select the player, add a component. Here you want to write character controller. All right, now we are just going to set up the character controller because you can see that this green outline is the collider of the player. It's wrong right now. So we are going to set it up, maybe bring it higher a little bit. So it's now too tall. We're going to be making it maybe 1.6 meters tall. And for the radius, maybe 0.3 meters, 30 centimeters. Okay, so now 0.8 for it to be at the center. So it's basically half of the height. And I think we're pretty good to go now. All right, so now we're going to be making a new folder here, create folder, and we are going to call it scripts. Okay, let's open it. We're going to create a new player controller script to be able to control the player controller. All right, like so. So now we can select the player and drag the script to the player. All right, let's open it. So here is what we are going to write in the player controller script. So first off, we want some elements. So I like to order my elements, my variables here, let's say, under some headers. So you just write header and here the name of the header. What this does is the following thing. Okay, let me show you. So I'm going to call it elements, and just for testing purposes, let's create a private boolean called A. So now if I go back to Unity here, you can see nothing because I had to make it public, of course. Okay, so now if I get back to Unity, you can see that there is an elements label here. So it's very practical to organize your things here, your variables or elements or anything you're going to drag and drop here in the player inspector, or in the inspector in general, actually. So let's start right away. We're going to set in the brackets serialize field. So this just tells Unity basically to show this thing in the inspector. So now I can even write a private variable, so a private boolean A, for instance, and it's going to show up in the inspector. You see, even if it's private. So private basically means that only this script is allowed to access this variable a, which is a Boolean in our case. So right now, the variable will be a character controller class, and let's call it character controller. All right. So if we go back to Unity, we can see that now we can add a character controller to this script. So I'm going to just drag this character controller and drop it here. This will allow us to control the character controller in this script. Okay? If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. I will do my best to answer. All right. Next thing to add here is a mobile joystick, because the mobile joystick is the thing that we are going to use to control the player. All right. Next up, we will want to have some settings, which are going to be, I think we will only need the move speed for the player. So let's create a new float and let's call it move speed. All right. So let's go back to Unity just to set up some stuff again. Here, we're going to drag the mobile joystick, not the canvas, but the drag zone, because this is the game object containing the mobile joystick script here. So we're going to drag this and drop it here onto the mobile joystick. For the move speed, we're just going to set some random value, maybe 1 for the moment, and then we can fix it later if it's too much or not enough. All right. So in the update method, we are going to be calling move player. So this will allow us to move the player. So what does this move player function contains? So let's create a new private void method. So void means that it doesn't return anything. And let's call it move player. How are we going to move the player? So we need to grab the data from our mobile joystick here. So our mobile joystick, if you remember in the last video, had a get axis method. So let me just show it to you. Mobile joystick.getAxis. So this method returns the direction and the magnitude of the movement we are doing with the joystick. So if you remember well, it only uses the x-axis and the y-axis. So we are going to create a new vector3 movement, maybe call it movement, which will be equals to a new vector3. And here we are going to be using our mobile joystick.getAxis x for the x value, 0 for the y value, because we don't want our player to go on to move on the y-axis for the moment. And for the z-axis, we're going to be using getAxis.y, because it's the y direction of the joystick will be our z direction here. All right. I hope you get this well. So then we are going to be multiplying our movement by our move speed. All right. To be able to control it better. And finally, we can select our character controller and move it by the movement. So this is the motion we're going to be applying to the player. All right, let's try this out. Just hit play. We're going to select the joystick and move it. And you can see that it's really fast. It's working, but it's really fast actually. So let us fix it. Here under the move speed, I think we can divide it by 1000. Okay, it was 100. So divided by 10. Okay, now it's pretty cool, but it's still too fast. So I'm going to be dividing it by 10 again. And now it's too slow. So I'm going to be multiplying it by 5. This is our developer's job. You see, we always change things up. All right, now it's perfect. So let's copy this value, quit the play mode, because you see, if you don't copy this value, when you exit the play mode, it's resetting. It's resetting all the variables. So let's Control V here. And if we hit play again, we can see that it's working perfectly. Nice. One problem is that the player is not rotating. It's not facing the direction of the movement actually. So let's fix this now. Let's open the player controller script again and create a new method called, let's call it rotate player. All right. And before I forget, I'm going to call it here in the update method. All right. So first off, we want the direction of the movement. Yeah, the direction of the movement. Okay, so let's create a new vector3 again. Or I can just copy this line, drop it here. And now just to have it between 0, -1 and 1, we are going to normalize it. So movement.normalize. All right. And then finally, we are just going to set the transform.forward vector of the player. So the forward vector is just the z, the local z-axis of the player. So if I select the player and I rotate it, you can see that it's the z-axis is rotating also. So we are just going to say, hey, I want the player's z-axis to face the direction of the movement. Okay? So let's do that. Transform.forward equals movement. It's as simple as that. So let's try this. Let's hit play. And now the camera is going crazy. Okay, let's fix this. To fix this bug, you just select the Cinemachine component, Cinemachine game object, sorry. And here under body, you want it to use the world space. That way it's not going to rotate with the player. Also, let's not damp the movement so that the camera follows the player like instantly without some lerping or some interpolation. So let's try now. Okay, now that's perfect. But it seems like there is something wrong. The player is sliding. Okay, let's animate this guy. To do that, we are going to create a new C# script. All right, and let's call it player animator. Okay, I can spell. Okay, so let's add the player and animator component now, or script, to our player. Skapoosh. All right, let's open it. This script is going to need 2 references, so let's create a header again, and let's call it elements as usual. And let's create a new serialized field, private animator. All right. Then I think we can also add, to control it. So let's add a reference to our joystick too. Mobile joystick. Okay, perfect. So now we're just going to manage the animation. It's just a method we're going to create now. Private void manage animation. All right, perfect. So we want the player to be idle in most cases, but whenever the magnitude of the joystick is greater than 0, we want the player to move. So what we are going to do is set a conditional statement. So if the mobile joystick dot get axis dot square magnitude is greater than 0, then we want the player to run. Else we just want it to idle. Okay. So let's create these 2 methods. Private void, not doiv, run, and private void idle. Okay. So here we are just going to say animator dot play. So this is used to directly play an animation. Run. And here we're going to say animator dot play idle. I think that should be good. So let's try it out. Let's hit play. And whenever we move the joystick, it's not working. Why? Because there is a null reference exception. We forgot to add the animator and the mobile joystick to the player animator. So let's do that. here is our joystick, so let's drag and drop it. And here is our animator. Let's drag and drop it too. Okay, let's hit play now. Now, if we move, the player is correctly moving and it's running. He's running, guys. All right, perfect. I forgot to follow my, okay, oh, come on. Where is it? So we've added the character controller to player. We've added a player controller script. We've added the player animator script. We've added Cinemachine before all of these guys. And now I need to thank you people for watching. So thanks for watching the video. I hope you liked it and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.